Welcome back to Yoga Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Alex Waycott. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. If you're listening today, I would love it if you could leave a comment wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if you are tuning in on YouTube. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to be able to connect with you wherever you're listening to the podcast. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into today's episode. And so many of us have watched the yoga industry grow really exponentially over the last decade. And what I've noticed with all of that really big and really fast growth is that there's kind of like this new kind of pressure that has come along with it for yoga teachers to stay relevant and keep up with all of the trends in the wellness industry that seem to change constantly. Like every month, there's a new trend for people to keep up with. And it's not that everyone is necessarily out there chasing trends, but a lot of yoga teachers, and like myself included, have expressed that they feel like sometimes they kind of have to compromise on their values in order to keep up or maybe even like to make ends meet. And I want to say that I think that's especially true if you are a full-time yoga teacher or you run some kind of business within the yoga industry as like your full-time gig and you have bills to pay. And you might find yourself facing these sort of ethical dilemmas where maybe an opportunity comes up and it pays really well, but it doesn't necessarily align with your values. And when you're faced with those kinds of situations, it's like, what do you do, right? Do you say yes to the opportunity? Do you turn it down? It's a tough position to be in. And sort of like the inspiration for today's episode is from something that I've come to realize as I've definitely grappled with my own ethical dilemmas working in the yoga industry. And that is when it comes to running a sustainable business as a modern yoga teacher and wanting to stay relevant, that what I think the most important thing to know is that the antidote to trend chasing is actually like stepping up and kind of stepping out on your own. And what I mean by that is that it's choosing to be like a leader or a trailblazer and make your own path and follow, what lights you up rather than just following everybody else and getting into that cycle of like needing to keep up with the latest wellness trend and somehow, infuse it into all of your yoga offerings. And, I think that it's common, like when I talk to other yoga teachers, for people to feel like they're kind of, metaphorically, like falling behind. And it's because everything moves so fast these days. And like, just think of the fashion industry. So we've never seen trends come and go as quickly as they do now, right? And we even have like micro trends that are around for like 3 weeks and then there's a new one. Like it's exhausting. And we definitely are living in an era of like influencers and overconsumption. And what's really interesting to me is how all of that has like seeped into the wellness industry, because now wellness is trendy for some people anyways. Some of us have been around here like since way before it was cool. But, when I think about that, like the best analogy that I can give you is that I have a really similar approach to teaching yoga as I do with fashion. And I know what I like. I know what works for me. I prefer timeless styles or maybe more like unique and unusual styles over trends. And I would rather invest money in like really timeless quality pieces, like a really good leather jacket, for example, that's going to last me a long time. And I feel like that same mindset that I have around like fashion applies to the way that I teach yoga and practice yoga as well. Like, I have clarity when it comes to how I teach and what I teach. I would rather stick to the basics and like more universal principles in my teaching than constantly like chase the newest fad. And when I'm pursuing my own continuing education or I'm like seeking out teachers and people that I want to learn from, I'm usually looking for someone who has a lot of experience, who really knows their stuff. And I'm willing to pay for it and invest in that time with them because I know that I'm going to receive so much back from it. And it kind of gives to me in the same way that like, you know, a really nice leather jacket or a really good pair of boots, you know, it could last you like 10 years, right? If you take care of them. So yeah, for any of the, you know, fashion girlies out there, maybe you relate to that. But I think that's kind of like where this idea of like stepping out on your own and being a little bit more of like a leader in your community can start. It's like, it's about knowing who you are. It's about knowing what you stand for and then being able to like stand in that and be confident in that and be confident in who you are and then show up consistently. So in my mind, like leadership and visibility are kind of like tied together for some reason. And I don't think that that necessarily has to be the case. So just because you're a leader doesn't mean that you like need to be famous or that you need to have thousands of followers on social media. I really think that like there's two main pillars that I would focus on when it comes to leadership in yoga communities. And those are reliability and clarity. And to me, reliability means that people trust you to do what you say you're going to do, and when you say you're going to do it. And clarity means that you know really clearly like what you offer, who you teach, who you're for, and why it matters. And I think that reliability feels a little bit rare in today's culture. Again, because we're living in a world where everything is built on convenience and everything is changing constantly and everything is designed to be instant, right? Like everybody wants instant gratification and instant results. And like, it's kind of disorienting, this world that we're living in right now. And I think as like a side effect of that, or like, you know, a result of that, like people are almost uncomfortable committing to things. And it shows up not just like in the yoga industry, but also, you know, in friendships, in relationships, in workplaces, like everywhere. I don't know. It seems like people have become flakier. And I don't know if it's just me or like if you've noticed that too, if you're listening. But the thing about being reliable, and in this, you know, particular context, being reliable as a yoga teacher, is that it takes a lot of effort. Like it's not easy to be a reliable person and to be a reliable teacher for your students. And it means showing up when you're tired. It means showing up when, maybe you don't have great attendance for your class. But I think that because reliability is almost becoming like this rare thing, people are actually craving it. And your students are going to notice it and like feel it when you are a reliable teacher for them. And, I think that there's been lots of opportunities that I've had to, be a leader in my own way as a yoga teacher, and it can certainly look lots of different ways. But I feel like one of the biggest ones and like the biggest shifts for me to really like take full responsibility for the way that I'm teaching and the way that I'm showing up in my own community was when I stopped teaching in studios. And this is just like my personal experience, and it does not mean that like you can't also be a leader and teach in studios. But for me specifically, like when you're in a studio setting, a lot of things are taken care of for you. And that can actually be like a real bonus and a real draw for folks to want to teach in studios, because like they have systems that you can lean on, and they're going to handle things, hopefully, like marketing and, booking in students, taking the payments, dealing with cancellations. And if things don't go your way, like the class is empty, you can kind of, as the teacher, like blame the schedule or blame the location. And like, if, you have a student who has a complaint, for example, typically there's a manager, and you can send the student off to the manager and say, oh, like they'll help you out with what's going on. And the reason that I bring this up is that when I like fully stepped out on my own as an independent yoga teacher, it was just so funny because like I couldn't blame anything on anybody else. And I had to take absolute full responsibility for how my business was running. And it wasn't that, I wasn't already taking responsibility for things prior, but this was just like the next level of leadership was to go, fully independent. And that meant that, all the signups, all the emails, curriculums that I'm creating, the energy of the space, like everything was my responsibility. And it's definitely has its challenging moments, right? There's moments where maybe you have to have a hard conversation with someone, and like you wish that there was a manager that you could send them to. And you end up maybe having to fill like multiple roles as well, right? Like you're not just the yoga teacher when you're independent, you're also the marketing team, you're the manager, you're the cleaning person, you're the admin person, you're the bookkeeper. Like you have to do everything. But at the same time, it was also really empowering for me because it showed me that, I was able to do things on my own, and I didn't need a specific like brick and mortar behind me. I didn't need a specific brand behind me. Like I was the brand, and I was the ideas, and I am the creativity, and like that's what people are coming for. And I think that it's really empowering to be able to see things that way. And yeah, like I knew that, especially once classes started picking up and that, you start seeing classes and like they're full and they're busy and people are learning and having a good time, like it's satisfying to know that you've built that. And I feel like that shift was really what helped me kind of transition, like in my own mind at least, from like just yoga teacher to like, no, I'm also a leader, and I take like full responsibility for everything that I'm doing. And I think like, even if you're not feeling called to, be an independent yoga teacher, or run your own trainings or open a studio or start a retreat center. Like, you don't have to do all those giant things to like step into leadership. It can start out really small. It can start out, in your local community, right where you are already. And it really comes down to like how you are with the people who are already in front of you. And so what I want to share with you is a list of 8 tangible steps for you to take to step more fully into your role as a leader and a yoga teacher. And so number 1 is to be consistent. So I feel like I talk about consistency all the time, and that's because it is one of my biggest values. I think it's so, so important. And by consistency, I just mean teach the same class at the same times every week. Try not to cancel last minute. Show up as prepared as you can. And like your community really needs to know that they can count on you. And that ties back to what I consider one of the pillars of leadership, which is reliability. And I think that it's easy for teachers to cancel when maybe the class numbers are low or you have other plans that night and, it'd be really fun to go see your friends. But people do notice when you cancel, and maybe it's just like one person who notices, but maybe they rearranged their whole night to be able to get to your class. And like maybe they got childcare to be able to come to your class. And like they're going to notice. And when you are consistent, it sends this message to people that they matter, that the space matters, that you care a lot about what you're doing and you care about them too. Number 2 is to create a clear container. And by that, I mean, see if you can teach in a way that feels like a little bit more of a curriculum. So it could be pre-registered classes, but it could also be that you simply integrate a theme or a focus into your existing public classes. So you don't have to go out and like rent a hall to do this or anything like that. You can integrate this curriculum into the places where you're already teaching. And this can be really, really helpful, especially if you are feeling tired from that kind of unspoken pressure to like keep up and reinvent your classes all the time, and like that pressure that sometimes we put on ourselves to constantly come up with something that's really new and entertaining and that's going to like keep everyone interested. This can be a wonderful way to create focus and structure, and like even committing to, a 4-week theme, for example, in your public classes is an opportunity for you as well to practice consistency and reliability and to stick with that theme that you said you're going to work with. And then the result is that you also give your students a chance to go a little bit deeper. Number 3 is communicate like you are a leader. So even if you don't consider yourself a leader already, communicate like you are one. And this comes down to, being really clear in your emails, being really clear in your expectations. It comes down to even just simple things like replying to people, via email, like in a timely manner. And I feel like a lot of teachers are maybe afraid to set policies because they don't want to seem like they're being too strict or they don't want to scare people away. But even things like setting up a cancellation policy or a refund policy for whatever you're running, those are those steps that you have to take to like really step into leadership. And that clear communication is also just going to help manage everybody's expectations. If you can just be clear with people right from the get-go, it's so much easier than having to like backtrack and, maybe like somebody wants a refund and you didn't make a refund policy. Well, then you have to refund them, right? Like you can kind of save yourself some, despair in the future if you, get really, really clear on your communication, right? So thinking about all of those little details. Number 4 is know your why. So regardless of where you teach or how much you teach or how many kinds of classes you teach, you can still know your why. And you want to be able to really clearly say, this is what I teach, this is who it's for, this is why I teach what I teach. And you want to be able to like stand in that with full confidence. And that's also going to mean that, you're not going to be the teacher for everyone. And that's totally okay. Like your classes aren't going to be for everyone, but when you're really clear on what you do, that is going to be an invitation for the people who are drawn to you. And it's going to help you find the students who are right for you sooner. So, it is one thing to like experiment and try different things and try different types of teaching. And all of that will eventually lead you to more clarity. But you do want to get to the point where you're like, this is what I believe in as a yoga teacher. This is what I teach. And this is why I do it. And it's going to help you feel, I think, more grounded as well, right? In just like knowing yourself and knowing why you do what you do. Number 5 is a reminder to keep learning and keep practicing. So continue to pursue knowledge and continue to know yourself. It's really about like staying a student and, setting that example for your students as well. We don't know everything as yoga teachers, and we need to be teachable. We need to be open to learning maybe like new ways of doing things as well. And so it's like coming back to that devotion to practice and learning and knowledge. And like that to me is a huge part of leadership. Number 6 is stop asking for permission. So you don't have to wait to be invited in order to do the things that you want to do. You can invite yourself. You can start things maybe before you're even ready. And maybe that means that you rent out a hall, you teach classes in your living room, you teach classes in the park down the road from you. Like, you can't wait for things. If there's something that you want to do, you just have to begin, and you have to begin with the people who are right in front of you, and you have to start small and it will build from there. Okay. But I think part of like forging your own path and not getting drawn into that cycle of like constantly needing to keep up with trends means that you have to fully believe in yourself and what you're offering, even when nobody else like knows about it or believes in it. And you can't ask for permission to do things. You've just got to go out and like start the thing that you want to start. Number 7 is to really show your students that you care, okay? Because you do. So learn your students' names, call on them by name during class, remember little things about them, right? So, know their injuries, know what's going on with them. yeah, like this is how we build community, and this is how we make people feel seen. And this is also the beauty of like showing up consistency and kind of like, I don't know, like creating roots for yourself in one place. And by roots, that could just be like you teach one class once a week in the same place, at your local gym or wherever it is. But by showing up consistently, it does allow you to like build lasting relationships with your students. And I think that in some of this more trend-based teaching where there's like a lot of events and again it's just flashy and a lot of it's for Instagram, like you can never have that kind of depth with people in a one-off class, right? That depth and that care that you're able to show for your students is really built over time. Number 8 is to be the one who goes first, okay? And this is kind of similar to like not asking for permission. So this is really the willingness to, launch something new, even if maybe nobody signs up for your workshop the first time you try to run it. But like somebody has to go first, even if you have an idea. And again, it's your own idea. Maybe it's not trendy. Maybe nobody else in your community is doing anything like this. So like you might as well be the one to go first. And it might not be successful on the first try, but I truly think that that is part of being a leader and like being willing to fail as well, being willing to not have anybody sign up for your class, rather than, just playing it safe all the time. Okay, so be the one to go first. You don't have to like host retreats or feel like you need to like refresh your brand, twice a year or anything like that. You don't have to follow every new trend to be a yoga teacher or to make a mark and make a difference in people's lives. You can start to step into your role as a leader right where you are. And I think the first thing that you want to do is focus on depth and consistency over being popular or being trendy. And it just all comes back to what's going to be sustainable for you as a yoga teacher, what is going to bring the most longevity to your business, to your teaching, to your personal yoga practice. And I think that starts by showing up really fully for the people who are right in front of you, for the people who are practicing in front of you already. That is today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you have been enjoying the podcast, please remember to rate and review the podcast wherever you are tuning in from. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next time.